Okay, guys, look, there's a lot of people in this group who it's really hard to relate to them when I'm just talking into my phone like a microphone, right? I don't mind getting in front of the camera, right? I don't mind that. I would do it. I've been on Zoom. I used to make videos before we got into this whole thing, right? But I just don't have any interest in being a celebrity, get me out of here or whatever, right? It's just like not my thing. And unfortunately, at the moment, right, unless you're prepared to get in front of the camera like, Shinny is doing in his videos or a number of other people, you aren't going to get people listening to you and they doubt what you're saying and they don't take you seriously, right? If you get in front of the camera and you just you just become likable because of your character and they suddenly click and relate to you, you can talk the most, massivest bunch of bollocks ever and nonsense and people will just relate to you because you're a likable person or whatever, right? So it's an obstruction to getting some really, really important things across to people and getting people to listen and actually help, right? Because they instantly cannot relate to it. And it's a matter of getting some information across to people which really, really can help. And the thing is, there are some really, really simple, basic things that people really can help with at the moment, which really, per person, is minimal effort, like absolute minimum. Like, mate, please, can you just do this for us? Come on, just do this, right? Like, sign this, or will you just email your MP with this, or will you just fill this in or do that, right? Okay, mate, like, it's just literally like, putting something on your knee, right? Like, can you just give this attention, like 2 minutes, 1 minute, 30 seconds, right? If, like, a really little bit of help, and I'm not like, this is not like, oh, can we get 100,000 signatures? Can we get 10,000 signatures? Can we get 1,000 signatures? This is like, look, right, you have to trust me on this. And I suppose in a way it's you're getting people to trust in your intelligence or trust in your insight or something that you've learned, right? This is the thing. I've done the work, right? I've put the time in. I've done the work. I'm not retarded. I've got intelligence. I'm not trying to... Maybe it's the fact that if you don't want to be Tommy Robinson or if you don't want to be, have millions of fans and numbers on social media, people seem to think there's something wrong with you. It's like, they can't put their faith or trust in you or, whatever. But this is the thing. We don't have to do that, right? But you shouldn't have to step up, right? You shouldn't have to step up in order to get people to A, believe you, or C, give you their time, or 3, show any interest. You shouldn't have to do that. But it's getting to a stage where that's becoming what it is. And this is they're creating a social order, a social point system where unless you get in front of the camera, unless you have facial recognition and show who you are and people somehow relate to you and you've got numbers underneath your profile, you can't actually, you're only going to end up, being a statistic in the comments, right? And that's a real obstruction at the moment to everything. Look, Parliament, right, are doing some really clever, devious, conniving and misleading things with us in order to stop us from reaching these goals. And this is what's led us into this situation where we're having to turn up, on London Bridge with, 150,000, 3 million people having to put windows through, cut cameras down, or get all these massive, huge numbers of signatures on petitions which don't amount to anything, then everyone says, oh, no, that's a waste of time, right? It's not going to work. Nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to come of it, right? Look, there are some technicalities, right, what Parliament have been doing, right? And if you read the rules and read the law, there are solutions that you can realise, understand and come to, right? And many people are interested in that, right? But for the people who are, and the people who checked up on it, and the people who've come to a solution and found it, right? It's like, well, if you're the clever one, why don't you do it, right? But I am doing it. I am doing it. Why am I making the video? I have been doing it myself, right? I have been doing a lot of things myself without any help, right? I have been writing to MPs. I ring MPs and leave messages on their answering machines on a daily basis with serious things. Write to MPs, right? Getting information from the National Archives and stuff like that, right? I'm telling you things that I've learned, and I just don't want, the odd random comments of people in the group going, oh, lad, it's a load of bollocks, or nah, lad, it won't work, or blah, blah, blah. No, it will. If it wasn't absolutely 100% fact confirmed without reasonable doubt whatsoever, with ultimate certainty, I would not make the video, right? I would not make the video if it merited like, oh, no, it's not going to work, blah, 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 whatever, right? It will work. In fact, it has been working to an extent, but when I'm asking for help, it's like, if 10 or even 100 or less, just some people did it, there is absolute certainty. There is no question whatsoever this will work, right? Now, we'll get to the fucking point then. Well, I'm getting to the point, right? Look, they've had 3 petitions now, right? And I know most people now at this point are going to have fallen asleep, right? But look, Michael Westwood did that petition to call a general election. He got over 3 million signatures. They had a debate and they fucked us all off, right? And they just said, we're not going to do anything about it. A year later, right? Now we've got another one and they got over 1 million signatures, right? And they just debated it. And now, immediately after it, in fact, before they'd even debated it, when it was closed, someone else did a petition to call a general election, right? And it got over 100,000 for a debate. And they've just put a notice up saying, we're not going to debate it. So it's still open. It's still collecting signatures. It's got like 187, I think, thousand, right? And they just put a notice up saying, no, we're not going to debate this, right? So what actually is going to happen? 3 petitions with altogether over 4 million signatures, and Parliament now say, we're not debating that other one, right? So what is going to happen? Let me tell you this, right? And I want to make it as simple as possible. I am not bullshitting you now, and I aren't retarded, right? I have got an A at GCSE level at least, right? So that isn't stupid, right? Look, in 2010, right? This is modern. 2010, they created that stupid e-petition service, right? Now, they run for 6 months. So it's up there for 6 whole months until it closes, right? So, and they will not debate it, according to them, unless you get 100,000 signatures. And that is a lot of signatures. And actually, when you work it out in 6 months, you've got to get 1 a minute. You've got to, including the 8 hours of sleep time, right, when you're asleep at night, if you calculate it, you've got to get 1 signature per minute. And that is near impossible without the internet, right? And you've got to, at some point, the rate of signatures has got to exceed 1 a minute, right? Which is impossible without being in very large groups of people. In fact, if there wasn't Facebook, if there weren't actually these American platforms like, Facebook, YouTube, mainly Instagram and Threads and X, Twitter. There's 5 platforms. If it wasn't for American platforms, it wouldn't actually be possible, right? So, there isn't actually any English platform which could possibly exist, right, where you can overtake 1 a minute, because you're looking at forums, those old school forums which are actually old school now, and no one hardly uses them, right? Just imagine this, right? Can you imagine, Putin, right? He's pulled out of McDonald's and the West and all these things. In fact, it's a miracle that there's still any Russian people who are still on social media, right? And I'm quite sure that if there was an official world war, right, when it actually was a world war declared and our government declared it, and Putin is not just in fighting Ukraine, if they actually declared a world war, and the Russians weren't using social media, right, at all, they weren't even allowed to go on Threads or like Instagram or whatever, that would be something significant. And, you know, Trump is... they've been putting all these videos out, like, you know, Trump grabbing Starmer and, you know, like, walling him up and all that. And they've been doing all these, like, Trump gangster videos, taking over Greenland and South America and all this and that, right? Just imagine for a second, right? If we did actually go to war with America, and let's say they didn't use nuclear weapons and they didn't just fucking nuke us within the first 5 minutes, right? And it did last for some time with, like, you know, armed forces. Let's say Australia was on our side, right? Just, you know, to say that we won't get totally and utterly annihilated by America, right? Let's just say that Australia did back us up, so we weren't infinitesimally small against America, right? If we were officially at war with America, and it actually, you know, they were the hostile enemy, you wouldn't be able to use YouTube, X, Twitter, or any of these American platforms because they're owned by a corporate business and operated by the enemy, right? So you wouldn't be able to use them. So where are you going to get all your signatures anyway for the petitions from to exceed 1 signature a minute without American platforms? You ain't going to get them from anywhere. You know, I mean, the only way that those petitions are going to get signatures is if people go to the website themselves, just from English citizens directly going to the Parliament website and trying to start them themselves and looking on the listings down it, right? Maybe in some forums, but you're not going to have this like Facebook rate of signature sign up, which exceeds like the rate of 1 a minute. I can tell you that, right? Now, look. All this 1 million signature stuff is tosh, right? That e-petitions service is a complete scam, hoax, hijack, sidetrack, capture net of all our political powers and rights, right? In Parliament, right, forget the petitions committee. Forget the committee of petitions and forget, like, you know, the whole online thing, right? In Parliament, in the chamber, when you've got your MP going in there, right? For something like call a general election, where it's a national importance matter and there are a lot of people complaining about it, right? All you need is between 10 and 40 MPs to stand up. Right? If 1 MP calls it, if 40 MPs stand up, right, it bypasses the Speaker of Parliament and you get a debate straight away there and then without the Speaker giving permission to it, right? And those debates in the main chamber of Parliament can have an order made, right? They can actually have an order, right? You know, like, you know, knock the hammer down, like an order, an action, an order, a motion, right? None of this, like, petitions committee tosh, like, oh yeah, we just all agree that we debate this subject, bollocks, right? This is like, we want, you know, the Speaker make an order, put something through, make a motion, right? Oh, you know, tell the order to command the Prime Minister, the House commands the Prime Minister, right? The House can order the Prime Minister to go to the King and tell him to call a general election by votes of the House, right? This is like a majority vote in Parliament that the Prime Minister is commanded to go and tell the King to call a general election. Now, how do you get that actual vote? How do you get the vote? How do you make them vote on it? Well, actually, this is the thing. If one person submits a paper petition to their MP, right, they have, this is like, you know, if you write it out properly, they have to lay it on the table and rise to speak on the matter, right? So that's 1 MP, right, from one piece of paper. He has to read it out. He has to read it out. Now, if 39 other MPs also do the same, how can you get 39 other MPs to rise on that matter? Well, if each of those 39 MPs has got a piece of paper in their hand and their constituents have asked them to raise the matter and put it on the table, right? You've compelled your own MP to arise. One person can do that. They've got to simply rise on the matter. You can have one signature on it, or you can have 10 or 100 or 1,000, right? As long as it's a matter of urgent importance, like call a general election, how do you say it's important? Well, look, there are over 3 million, 4 million people now who have signed it. So it's urgent because we've got evidence that it's urgent. We've got evidence that 4 million people are going berserk about it. There's also evidence that there are protests erupting all over the country through all array and manner of protests all over the country. The country's in uproar, and social media is brimmed to the hilt with disappreciation of Keir Starmer, right? Unappreciation of Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, right? So there is actual lots of evidence that, the country wants there to be a different government, right? So what I'm saying is, it's actually what e-petitions have done is diverted, derailed, and captured what should be achievable much easier, right, with a lot less effort, and none of all this, 3-4 million nonsense requirements, right? And then them saying, oh yeah, we don't want to debate it, right? You actually make them. You actually force them to debate it, right? And all it requires is 40 people, right? I've sent it anyway, and I've sent it to 40 different MPs on behalf of those people, because there are people from those areas who have signed those main big petitions from those areas, so they clearly are asking their MP, right? So I've written 40 separate letters on behalf of all the different people, right? Just to demonstrate the model for this, right? But it will help. And it will be a lot better if you write in, okay? And all you've got to do is get one piece of paper. It'll take you 1 minute, less than 60 seconds to write it out. Put it in the post box, address it to Parliament. You don't have to buy a stamp. You don't have to pay money for a stamp, right? And write to your MP and say you want there's an emergency and we want a general election, right? Now, those MPs have got to lay it to Parliament, the paper ones. So, whether you're from Islington or Croydon or Hillingdon or, Birmingham or whatever, all it takes is one person from each constituency to be bothered to write it on paper. Right, this is an emergency. The country has gone bonkers and we want a general election now, and it's an urgent matter, right? Now, if at least one person from each constituency does that on paper, they're actually getting their MP to stand up and rise, right? So you get... It says a minimum of 10 MPs, but with 10 MPs, the Speaker still gets to make a decision. If it's 40, right, even the Speaker cannot intervene, right? And this is what we actually need to do. And it's just a matter of not like having, it's just pointless, there's no point, they're going to do anything, right? They actually have to. They actually have to present it if you write it in paper properly, right? They can't not do it. And, now that we've got those 3 petitions with all the evidence, and now that the fact is, if the country wasn't in uproar, if social media wasn't filled with people who were complaining, then there wouldn't be any evidence, but there is evidence. So it is a matter of national concern now. You can prove that. All you have to do is, right, it's clearly obvious this is a matter of national concern and emergency, right? Can we have a general election now, right? Where are the 40 MPs standing up to it? And put it in paper. And they have to stand up to put it on the table. So, I'm not asking much. It's like, we can't be bothered, or, no, this is what work, you're not right. I am right. It says it in the manual. And you say, well, what about e-petitions? Yeah, this is what I'm telling you. The whole idea of e-petitions, right, the whole concept of it, the whole policy of it, and the rules of it since 2010 are a load of tosh. They are a load of rubbish, and it is a con. It is a trick. Well, what can you do about that? Well, do it in paper. Do it in paper, right? And write into them in paper, because it's in the rule book, and, you can either not do it and not try, or you can do it and try. And at least if you do it and try, then you say, oh, yeah, we tried that, it didn't work. But if you don't try it, if you don't write in, and if you don't, even bother to the most minimal thing, then, why even bother with the campaign? Why not just, why are you even on the groups? Why are you even complaining? Why are you even interested in this subject? Why are you even, this is the thing, it takes less effort than going out to block a ULEZ camera. It takes less effort than writing an email to your MP. It takes less effort than making a YouTube video. All you do is pick up a pen. I've written out essentially, what we need to write, how you do the form of it, and you don't even have to write that much out. You can just write, there's an emergency, we want a general election, and I want my MP to, put this on the table, right? And if, one person from each area of the country did it, each MP would have to present that petition, and it definitely would be, you're actually, one person can command their MP to rise to the table, and that's what I'm telling you. You've got a legal right to write a paper petition, and if you do it in the correct form, right, which is to the Honourable Commons assembled in Parliament, humble petition of your name and address, and then showeth, and then at the end put the prayer, right, and sign it, your MP has to put it on the table, right? So you made your MP stand up on that matter. So if 40 MPs stand up on a matter, the Speaker cannot, he cannot block it. The Speaker cannot block it. And this is like what I'm saying, using e-petitions, it's a lot of waste, because they're sharing it on all these groups, getting all these signatures, and they're just either having a debate, and that petitions committee debate is nothing to do with this emergency debate thing, right? It's totally separate and different. So they're distracting us from making proper use of actually the House of Commons main chamber. And that's what they're doing. And this is what I'm trying to tell you. I've read the book. This is not bollocks. It's actual fact and truth. I've done the reading so you don't have to. All you have to do is get a pen, write on one little piece of paper, put it in the post box for free, and that's all you have to do. And if it doesn't work, at least then you can say, I tried it and it's a load of bollocks. But don't say it's a load of bollocks until you've actually tried it, and then you can say it's bollocks if you try it and it doesn't work. But we need people to try it.